Hello, and on today's episode, I'm here with Doug Campbell of MaidSafe. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks very much for having me on today.
Oh, yes, of course. Could you tell me a little bit about the problems that MaidSafe is trying to solve?
Sure, yeah. So MaidSafe as a company was formed in 2006 when the founder, David Irvin, identified what he saw as being a kind of a critical problem with the internet going forwards. And that's basically what we've been working on ever since. And the problem in a nutshell is the fact that it's has a number of issues when it comes to scaling, has a number of issues when it comes to privacy, and basically it's just not fit for purpose. So the problem that we're trying to solve is one in which we can move into this new world in which we're all generating so much data throughout different areas of our lives, whether that's in terms of work, in terms of play, in terms of Internet of Things, or whatever else it might be, and provide a system that's far more decentralized to remove kind of centralized points of failure and connected, but whilst creating this anonymity and security by default, in effect.
So it seems like you're kind of going away from that traditional client-server model.
Yes, absolutely. So the idea is it's very much peer-to-peer, and an individual will download free software and be able to therefore join the network. Everybody is able to access the network for free, to browse, etc. But if you'd like to take a more kind of active role in the network, then you become what's known as a vault. You actually store other shards of other people's information and data. And the question would be, well, why would you do that? Why would you use your expensive electricity and bandwidth and everything else in order to support the network? And the reason is because you are hoping to get rewarded. And in the case of the Safe network, the reward is a utility token, effectively called SafeCoin. So it's an on-network token that can then be exchanged for other goods and services, or whatever it might be, once the network actually launches.
Is this on an encrypted network?
Yeah, so every piece of data that's uploaded to the network is actually encrypted before it hits the network, if you like. So at no point does anybody else other than the user himself, herself, or itself have the ability to decrypt that. Once your data goes onto the network, it's split into a number of pieces, and at that stage the network itself takes over. And we always talk about the Safe network as being the world's first autonomous data and communications network, which I think means different things to different people, but basically it means that the network is deciding exactly what to do with all of the shards of data, and it's the only one that ever knows what's going on. So it's not like there is a central organization that can be hacked or surveilled by, whether that's for whatever reason, government agencies or etc. The data will just be spread all around the network, and as I say, one individual has the right to recover that.
So most of us are pretty familiar with how Facebook and Google kind of spy on us and gather information about us, but I don't think people are quite aware of how much the ISPs around the world are really spying on us.
Yeah, absolutely. So anywhere that data is going, it's being copied. Obviously, it's being shared, and different entities have different motivations for looking at that data or directing that data or telling other people about what sort of data is passing through their hallowed portals in many ways. So it's crucial, really, I think, going forwards, that we start to stop the situation that's developed to this point in time, which is we've just been very happy to date to hand around our personal data, or maybe not to think about where our personal data is going and who's actually going to receive it, and be able to therefore use it. The whole point of this is it's a paradigm shift whereby these companies will not be able to do that by default. Now, of course, going forwards, there's nothing to say that together we'll, for some reason, believe that surveillance or advertising or whatever it might be is actually a good model. I can't imagine that we will do this, but in certain cases there might be people that do want that, in which case that's absolutely fine. But The point is that at a basic fundamental network level, that capability is not there because of the encryption, because of the privacy and the security. So by removing that, it gives others the opportunity to opt in rather than to just have their data surveilled by default, if you like.
So how does this exactly work? Do I download like a new kind of browser?
Yeah, so you would download, at the moment what we have is the Safe browser, and there has been discussion over the years about whether or not we would have a browser which you could also use to access the ClearNet as well as the Safe network. The position that we've taken is that whilst obviously there's some benefits in terms of usability, etc., to going down the joint route, but the risk of somebody making some kind of terrible error whereby they were on the ClearNet and suddenly started believing that they were on the secure, safe network and started sharing information that they shouldn't have, it could obviously be pretty damaging going forward. So our decision has been to keep the two entirely separate.
And if I want to host content, do I use that same application?
Yeah, going forwards then, at the stage we're at the moment, we're in Alpha 2, so we don't have the vaults out and working at this point in time. Previously, we've run tests where that is possible, so we know how to do it. It's just a case of putting things in place in a certain order. So at that point in time, yes, you would be you'd decide to run your own vault. You'd download the free software because obviously everything's open source, as you would expect. So, or at least I hope people would expect. Perhaps people are perhaps thinking there's more of a business model to convincing people to pay a price for security and privacy, but no, absolutely not. The whole point of this is that it's open source so that anybody can join in ultimately, and everybody will be able to be part of the new network, because I think that's the only way in which we move towards a kind of model of global participation. I think there are definitely people who pay for or are happy to pay for privacy and security, but we really want to make this a paradigm shift so that people are using it without necessarily being driven by those same concerns, I guess, because I think we see that all the time as well, don't we? We see, you look at the recent Facebook Cambridge Analytica story, and there's so many lessons to be learned from that. But I think one of them is the fact that Facebook, with its 29% of the world's people, and if you take the numbers of monthly active users, how many people have actually stopped using Facebook as a result of what happened and the sort of the scandal that erupted with Cambridge Analytica? I suspect is not very many, and part of the reason is because of the existing internet and the existing business models that require this kind of siloed approach towards data. So one of Facebook's huge value, parts of its value is the fact that it owns your data. You can't just pick that data up and take your friends, take your likes, take your activities and go elsewhere. Whereas on something that is decentralized, such as the Safe network and the way that we're building this, and also it's very compatible with Tim Berners-Lee's Solid project, which you might have come across, but it's to do with linked data and the way that data can be shared online. Then we have the capability of being able to have a system whereby you could have a Facebook, for example, where if the scandal such as Cambridge Analytica came around, everybody could go, well, actually, no, I don't want to support this company. I don't want to use its services anymore. On the Safe network, all you do is you simply deauthorize that application, in this case Facebook, and you would move to a Facebook competitor. But the exciting thing is that on the day that you logged into the competitor, you would immediately type in your details, whatever, you would go through, and all of your friends, all of your likes, all of your activities, etc., would all be already there waiting for you. because the application is merely the view on the data that you own. So this is this idea of data portability, basically. And it's it's a different way of looking at the world, really.
So does this system support dynamically generated content, or is it mostly for static files?
No, I mean, every piece of data that goes up onto the system is permanent, so it will always be there.
Okay, so mostly then static files.
So in terms of what? Sorry, just so that I understand the question.
Is this system more for static files, or will it be compatible with dynamically generated content?
So anything that can be uploaded will be there permanently as a permanent record of what's gone on. I think it's been designed very much to be that way, because one of the problems that we're trying to solve is to get around this what we call, I suppose, or not formally, but we often speak about it as the Library of Alexandria problem. So it's the fact that back in whenever it was 48 BC, and Caesar's troops burnt to the ground by mistake, apparently, the Library of Alexandria in Egypt when they were fighting Ptolemy the 13th, I think it was. There was 40,000 books, well, different estimates, 40,000, 70,000 books destroyed back in that time. That pretty much would have been, I don't know, the entirety of human knowledge in book form, I suspect. And there's a lot of cases as we've moved forwards and humanity's progressed and we've got a lot more knowledge out there, where we perhaps are carrying out, I don't know, medical research that is on the face of it a failure. It doesn't provide the results that we're looking for. But ultimately, roll that forward a few years, and suddenly you'll find that somebody uses that same sort of methodology or the same results, and they will be able to use that to make a new discovery, which benefits everybody one way or the other. So it's these kind of random uses of different pieces of information and data that we think are critical going forwards.
And so what have been some of the challenges of developing this system?
I think the biggest one is just it's such a vast project. So redeveloping the internet effectively, depending on how you define that. But it's we're looking at doing many different things here. And the vast majority of that has been inventions. And obviously it's almost impossible to put timescales on inventions. You know where you're trying to get to, but you've got to actually go through the woods, dig into the weeds and be able to flush through what that actually looks like in practical terms. So I think one of the challenges that is absolutely the timescale, because there's so many different parts to building the network itself. From the vaults to the coin to the farming, privacy, whatever it might be, the communication between peers. So I think that's the biggest one. Obviously, one of the other challenges will be at the point that we launch is to see how many people we can get using it. Ultimately, one of the reasons I joined the project, I met David, the founder, back in 2014, just before the fundraising that took place, because I used to run the Scottish Bitcoin meetups and various other kind of decentralized cryptocurrency events in Scotland. And I always remember him saying to me, well, it doesn't really matter whether or not we succeed as long as somebody does. And I think obviously we would like to succeed because we believe that what we're doing is at the moment far beyond what a lot of other projects are looking at. And I don't mean that in some kind of intellectually superior way. I just mean that a lot of other projects are out there talking about decentralizing the web and the internet, but they're not using necessarily the core tenets of privacy, security, freedom throughout the parts that they are looking at. Whereas what we're trying to do is provide this full suite which covers the whole of a new internet. So that's definitely challenging. It's challenging to message that in a way that hits home, because we all use the internet, but we all have very different technical knowledge about what's actually going on in the background. And then I think also just the narrative, the conversation in general terms about privacy, security, and just data hygiene, if you like, going forwards has evolved significantly since 2006. So that's definitely helped, playing in our favor in that case. But we're keen to get this done and dusted as quickly as possible, because I think the need is growing on a daily basis for a network that is secure by default, as opposed to just the original internet, if you like, or the original web, which was built for connectivity. It wasn't built for security.
So what are some of your plans for the future going forward?
So in the most immediate future, the key thing is to get to Alpha 3, as we call it. And in Alpha 3 is the next stage in which people will be running, or will have the capacity to run decentralized routing nodes, if you like, from home. There's a number of things that are part of that whole journey, and we're getting very close to that now. A couple of months ago, I think it was, maybe 3 months ago now, we came out with a new consensus algorithm called Parsec, which stands for Protocol for Asynchronous, Reliable, Secure, and Efficient Consensus, which is pretty groundbreaking stuff, really. I mean, we don't have time to go into kind of the technical details, I don't think, today, but it's definitely a different approach that we, fingers crossed, from what we can see, from all the evidence that we have, is best in class when it comes to decentralized consensus, which is making sure that nodes all around the world can agree with each other about what happened and who did what in what order. And obviously that's got to be backed up by mathematical proofs and all this good stuff. But a lot of what we've done, we're kind of integrating that in now to the system. We get Alpha 3 out, and then in Alpha 4 we'll be releasing the vaults so people can start running these things at home. Then we'll get the test coin out, and at that stage we're just moving into beta, and hopefully in short course, or relatively short course after that, we will move on to going live.
Well, it's a very interesting project. Is there anything that I should have asked you that maybe I missed?
I don't think there's anything. This is such a vast project. It's like there could be any details for any of these parts. But I think what I'd say to anybody that's vaguely interested in this, or at least shares some of the same goals and aims that we do, is to perhaps go to our website, safenetwork.tech. It has a link. There's also, it's got a link to the forum, which is where it's community run, but that's where all the conversations go on about the technology on a daily basis. And it also, there is a document called the Safe Network Primer, which again was written by the community. We have a fantastic community that have been around the project for a long time, and it's good to see it grow on a daily basis. And they pulled together it's about a 30-page document or so, a PDF that you can download, but you can also just go to our website. I believe it's www.safenetworkprimer.com, and that gives a really top-level view of the different areas of the network and what basically it's a good jumping off point to go and dig into other areas.
I'll make sure I have all those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Well, thanks very much for your time.
You are a podcast listener and you're interested in crypto. Otherwise, why would you be listening to this show, right? Have you tried looking for new crypto and blockchain podcasts to listen to? If you've used Google, then you've probably found a whole bunch of clickbait articles. Top 10 lists that just list the same podcasts over and over again. And most of those podcasts aren't even active anymore. If you use iTunes, then you probably got a whole bunch of irrelevant results. The iTunes search function is absolutely awful. It's kind of like using Alta Vista in the 1990s. Keyword stuffing has made it almost unusable. So I made a site to fix this problem. Just go to crypto.podcastlist.net. On the site, you'll find a comprehensive list of all the active podcasts covering the blockchain, cryptocurrency, and other decentralization technologies. This is not a curated list of my favorite shows. This list is intended to be complete. I want to list every single show that is focused on this industry. I've got about 75 active shows on the list already. Please let me know if I've missed any shows. This list is also covered by a Creative Commons license, so feel free to reuse it and share it. Check out crypto.podcastlist.net if you are looking for new crypto and blockchain podcasts. And if you have your own show, please check and make sure you are listed. Once again, the site is crypto.podcastlist.net. Please check it out and tell me what you think.